Welcome to the Soul of Innovation podcast. I am Thomas Anglero, and let me ask you, are you who you are in your thoughts all the time? Do you think one thing and behave in another way? Do you have these private thoughts, and yet when you open your mouth or with other people, you're not who you see yourself in your thoughts? You're not reacting the way you would react in your mind when you fantasize. Who are you? Let me tell you a story. The other day I went to get an MRI of my lower back. So for those of you who haven't taken an MRI lately, an MRI is when you lay down pretty much disrobed and they slide you into a machine that's a big magnetic machine, and it thumps really loud. So when I went to get my MRI, I disrobed, and the woman walked me to the room with the machine, and then she asked me to lay down because they slide you into the machine. As I lay down, this woman immediately started staring at my lower body part. Let's be polite. And as she talked to me saying, give me all the rules of not to move, if she gave me a thing in my hand, so in case I get panic, because it's a very tight space that they slide you into, she says, hit the panic button, we'll stop the machine. And she's going through her normal script. She's going through her normal script, but her eyes, she's not looking at me as she does the normal script. She's just, her eyes are locked in on my lower body part. She stops her script, and now she's putting on this blanket because it doesn't so I don't get cold, this protective mechanism. And the whole time, and now she's done this 1,000 times, but she's locked in on my lower body part. She slowly makes sure everything's fine, locked in on my lower body part. And I'm thinking to myself, does she even realize that I'm here? Where is her mind at now? What is she thinking? What fantasies, what thoughts? So then she leaves the room. I go into the MRI that takes the MRI. The machine slides me out. And I go, I wonder what's going to happen now. So she comes back into the room. And as she comes back into the room, once again locked in on my lower body part, as she takes all the blankets off and takes off all the equipment, and she goes through her normal script. But she's going through her normal script to like, well, your x-rays will be ready, your MRI will be ready in 2 to 3 weeks, blah, blah, blah. But only locked in on my lower body part, never recognizing me, never, ever, recognizing I'm a human being. Just, she's locked in on her thoughts. So I get up and leave. And it made me wonder. I started reflecting. Who is she? Is she the person who's in her thoughts? Is that who she really is? Or she's the person who could just go through her 9-to-5 job, just doing the script and not existing? Who are you? You could do so many things that you do at your job day after day because you've done it so many times without even thinking. Matter of fact, life in itself is a repeated script. We love patterns. We love having, I forgot the word right now, having things the same every single day. And if anything messes with our day, we get very upset. But we love that consistency day after day. Who are you? Are you that person who loves everything day after day? That's fine, but then you're on a repeated tape deck, right? If you remember tape decks. You're on a record that plays over and over. Is that you? Nothing unique, day after day, saying the same things, doing the same things. Is that you? Or are you a fantasy in your own mind? You capture a moment, see something, and you fantasize, and you get all excited. But you learn that outwardly show no one that this is what you're thinking, but inwardly, my God, that's a wonderful fantasy. Is that you? Do you live life for those moments of fantasy and thought? For those moments of mental pleasure and ecstasy? Which one is you? Are they both you? Who are you? There's a lot that you have to ask yourself. There's nothing wrong with having fantasy. There's nothing wrong with seeing someone or seeing something and letting your mind go off and have fun. That is called the joys of childhood. Do you remember when you were young and you were playing with the sand and playing with rocks and grass and flowers and friends, and you're making up all sorts of stories? That is what you're doing as an adult, and it is fine. Matter of fact, it is necessary. But now as an adult, you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, maybe older. How much time do you spend in your fantasy thoughts? And I'm not saying that if you spend too much time, I'm just asking, do you live for that moments of fantasy time in your thoughts? Is that you? Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that time that you have those fantasy thoughts, that you see that someone? Did you stare at something? Do you look at a picture and you remember? Is that your moment? Is that what you're living for? And the rest of your life is just sort of this day after day, week after week thing. What do you live for? When do you say you're you? Are you that moment when you wake up in the morning and no body part hurts, your mind doesn't hurt, you're fully rested? I believe we all are ourselves. We all are our true selves in that one moment. Before we think of the job we have to do, before we think of the work, the people, the kids, the bills, that one moment of pure relaxation, that is absolutely us. And right after that moment, and just before you remember all the pressures of life, do you think of something or someone or someplace? Is that you? And then when you open your eyes and you realize you're awake, do you work towards that goal? Do you work towards that person, that place, that something, that someone? Do you see? I think that young lady who taught me a lot while I was laying there and she stared at my body part. She taught me a lot. I would not have minded if she would have just looked me in my eyes and said something to me somewhere during that experience. Something showing me who she was. Any conversation. But instead she chose to ignore me. She chose her fantasy. And she ignored reality. Let's say I was let's say I was available. And let's say I found her attractive. Maybe that would have been our moment. And she blew it. She chose to be engrossed in her mental fantasy, when all she had to do was turn her head and look at my eyes, and it could have been a reality. Do you ever made that mistake? You chose your fantasy over reality. Are you choosing your fantasy now? Spending time in that place that you're thinking about that's yours, when all you have to do is turn your head a little to the left, and then it becomes reality. For her, For all of us, it is that simple. That's all she had to do, and her fantasy would have become a reality. That is a shame, and you shouldn't live your life in shame. So the next time you find yourself enjoying your mental moment, I want you to think, what little thing I have to do, what the person I'm thinking about, the person I'm looking at, the person I'm fantasizing about, what do I have to do? The job I'm dreaming about, what do I have to do? That car that I want so bad, what do I have to do? That little thing I have to do in this moment to make it a reality. For that woman, she looked like she probably was single, living alone, and all she had to do was turn to the left, and she could have found a soulmate. She could have been surrounded by love. Because I'm sure I'm not the only person she does that to. And yet she doesn't realize how close she is to fulfilling all her fantasy, her dreams, her lifelong ambition to be full of love and happiness. How close are you to having that life that you've always dreamt? You are so, so close. But you have to start moving ahead to the left. You have to believe that all you have to do is a little bit more in that moment, and your dreams will be fulfilled. Go forth and spread beauty and light. And when you spread it by being in the moment. The next time you fantasize, the next time you daydream, the next time you go, damn, I want that car, or whatever. Then the very next moment after that thought, say, what little thing I got to do right now? What can I do right now that makes it my reality? I love you. I believe in you. This is Thomas Inglero. Forever yours. Until next time. Thank you for listening to that episode. If you want to contact me, you can contact me on my website at inglero.com, and you can also subscribe to the newsletter, or you can find me anywhere on social media with Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much, and I hope to hear from you very soon.